Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Let me just repeat, if you missed last week's broadcast, unfortunately, that would be most people. The on-demand feature was essentially not working. If you listened to it live, the first airing last Saturday, you would have heard the broadcast. Otherwise, it was not available on the on-demand. Please go to tarpley.net, World Crisis Radio page, and we'll try to post the lost broadcast there. But now we got to push ahead because we have this pattern of events. And again, focus on the pattern, not the details. Why don't we go through in chronological order? That's as good as any. And let's start New Year's Eve, December 31st. John P. Wheeler, former Army officer. They tout him as the guy who helped to build the Vietnam Memorial. This is not the essential thing. This is a guy who was active in the creation of the U.S. Cyber Command. U.S. Cyber Command being the one that is, let's say, playing off the WikiLeaks events, right? The more brouhaha around Assange and WikiLeaks, the more money in the budget for the U.S. Cyber Command. So John P. Wheeler, known for two things. One is cyber warfare, Cyber Command. The other one is getting those real-time television pictures so that you can run Predator drones from the comfort of Langley and shoot up the wedding parties in Pakistan and similar places. So this is not a likable fellow by any stretch. So he is found dead on the morning of New Year's Eve in a landfill, Cherry Island landfill, on the coast of the Delaware River, on the banks of the Delaware River, southeast of Wilmington, Delaware. He had been in Washington, D.C. on December 28th, took a train ride to Wilmington. On the 29th, he went to his home in Newcastle. He was disoriented. He was disheveled and disoriented at a parking garage, says he was robbed. December 30th, he's offered assistance at the DuPont office building headquarters in downtown Wilmington. He's there, but he's the last sighting of this man, the victim, December 30th, 8:30 p.m., seen in the DuPont building, downtown Wilmington. Early the 31st, trash trucks pick up garbage in the Wilmington area, take it to the landfill. At 9 a.m. that morning, Wheeler's body is found. Now, this is somebody well known in the Pentagon because, of course, he was a direct assistant to the Secretary of the Air Force and the general, the chief of staff of the United States Air Force. And the big question is that he was there during the rogue B-52 case of August-September 2007. This incident is now back, and, of course, it does deserve more attention than it ever got. We are told here in the Washington Post of January 4th, that the victim, Wheeler, left the Pentagon when Defense Secretary Robert M. Gates fired Wheeler's boss, Air Force Secretary Michael W. Wynn, after the Air Force lost track of nuclear material. Now, Air Force lost track of nuclear material is the Washington Post euphemism for the rogue B-52 incident, where a fully loaded B-52 goes from North Dakota, Minot, to Barksdale, Louisiana Air Force Base, jumping off point for the trip to the Middle East, with 6 nuclear cruise missiles outside of the Air Force chain of command, hijacked by the rogue network, hijacked by the group that Cheney was speaking for, right? Call it the Cheney group just to identify who they are, but the leaders are more in the background than in Cheney. So the plane is stopped on the runway. And, of course, people will remember several days before this, I had issued the landmark Kennebunkport warning saying Cheney is about to strike. Any bombs, terror incidents going off in the world have got to be ascribed to Cheney right before it happened. And even with those facts staring them in the face, some people still couldn't put 2 and 2 together. But nevertheless, by the time the incident around the Rogue B-52 had come to light, that Kenny Bunkport warning was up on 110,000 plus websites around the world, and I hope had something to do with stopping this thing from going on. So you'll remember we then had a complete stand down of the entire U.S. Air Force was grounded for one day in September of 2007. There was a complete inventory of all U.S. nuclear weapons because this was a big deal. This was a bent spear, right? That the nuclear weapons had been taken outside of the National C-Cube Command Control Communications National Command Structure and had been put under the control of the Rogue Network, meaning God knows who. And it was fortunately stopped, right? This is right before the Israeli attack on Syria in the first days of September of 2007. Now, this guy had worked for MITRE Corporation. He left the Pentagon, went to work for MITRE in June of 2008, which was when Gates finally did the purge, this very rare event, firing, and I think unprecedented, firing both the Secretary of the Air Force, Michael W. Wynne, and the relevant general who was the head of the military head of the Air Force. So this guy, Wheeler, is part of that group. Now, what does it mean? Again, the details of this case are less important than the pattern, although in this case the details have a tremendous importance in their own right. So there's a well-known military-industrial operative, very influential guy, found dead in the garbage, right? It reminds you of that movie Goodfellas, where you see the guy getting found in the dumpster. All right, so that's December 31st. And we're told, even the Washington Post is not happy with the story that is spun around this, right? What happened to this guy? They call it an odd prelude. It's an odd prelude to his death that he's wandering around for several days. Very strange. Reminds you of other, assassinations in the Washington, D.C. area. But an odd prelude, and the Washington Post actually gives you maps to allow you to trace the last days of Wheeler. So odd prelude to Delaware slaying. He was found in a landfill, and this was a very strange event. So Washington Post uncomfortable with their own story. Pushing ahead. On the 6th of January, incendiary letters that burn, smoke, and obviously give everybody the idea of letter bombs of the Unabomber type or the Unabomber caliber, were sent to Maryland state officials, one being Governor Martin O'Malley, who had in the previous 2 or 3 months taken the lead in trying to stop some fraud closures in the state of Maryland. So here now we have the left wing of the political constellation being disciplined. Back in a minute.